Hello, and welcome to Video Games and the World, gamers. My name is John, and today we are taking a trip to the sewers of New York City and talk about the history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in video games. For 35 long years, Turtle Mania has rocked the house, starting with comics, spawning various cartoon series, toys, 5 live-action movies, a CGI film, video games, and tons of other merchandise. This, gamers, is season finale of Video Games and the World Season 3. As we are here with this episode munching a nice slice of pizza, let us enjoy the history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in gaming while telling their beginnings. Yum yum! The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics were first published by Mirage Studios in 1984 in Dover, New Hampshire. The main characters are 4 anthropomorphic teenage turtles, genetically mutated in the sewers of New York, named after the great masters of the Renaissance, and trained in the art of ninja by an anthropomorphic rat named Splinter. The Turtles befriend a human-computer genius called April O'Neil and a vigilante named Casey Jones, and other humans as well. They battle many creatures such as the Triceratons, and foes such as the Foot Clan led by their arch-enemy, the Shredder. The concept arose from a humorous drawing sketch out by Eastman during a casual evening of brainstorming and bad television with Laird. Using money from a tax refund, together with a loan from Eastman's uncle, the young artist self-published a single-issue comic intended to parody 4 of the most popular comics of the early 1980s. Marvel Comics' Daredevil and New Mutants, Dave Sims' Cerberus, and Frank Miller's Ronin. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book series has been published in various incarnations by various comic book companies since 1984. The Turtles started their rise to mainstream success when a licensing agent, Mark Friedman, sought out Eastman and Laird to propose wider merchandising opportunities for the franchise. In 1986, Dark Horse Miniatures produced a set of 50mm LED figurines. In January 1987, Eastman and Laird visited the offices of Playmates Toys, a small California toy company that wanted to expand the action figure market. Development was undertaken by a creative team of companies and individuals. Jerry Sachs, advertising agent of Sachs Finley Agency, brought together by the animators at Murakami Wolf Swenson, headed by Fred Wolf. Wolf and his team combined concepts and ideas with the Playmates marketing crew, headed by Carl Aronian, Vice President of Sales Richard Salas, and VP of Playmates Bill Carlson. Aronian brought on several designers and concepteur and writer John C. Schultz, and worked out the simple backstory that would live on toy packaging for the entire run of the product and the show. Sachs called the high concept pitch Green Against Brick. The sense of humor was honed with a collaboration of the Murakami Wolf Swenson animation firm's writers. Playmates and their team essentially served as associate producers and contributing writers to the miniseries that was first launched to sell in the toy action figures. Phrases like Heroes in a Half Shell and many of the comical catch phrases and battle cries, Turtle Power, came from the writing and conceptualization of this creative team. As the series developed, veteran writer Jack Mendelson came on board as both a story editor and script writer. David Wise, Michael Charles Hill, and Michael Reeves wrote most of the scripts. The comics would spawn a 1987 cartoon series on the CBS network. The cartoon series would last for 10 seasons until 1996 and was a total success. The cartoons were very lighthearted, while the comics had a more darker tone. After the 1987 cartoons went off the air in 1996, the series went dormant for a while. But then, in 2003, 4Kids spawned a new animated series. The first season was closer to that of the comics in terms of both story and the personalities of the Turtles. All the characters are more complex individuals, and the Turtles also have a stronger family bond. The tone is also somewhat more serious with a greater emphasis on action, but still remains lighthearted and less violent enough to be considered appropriate for younger audiences. The show does not feature nearly as much slapstick comedy or heavy puns as its animated predecessor. The 2003 series also features stories with magical powers, usually absent from the earlier animated incarnation. Michelangelo is the wise guy of the group. He is funny, cocky, lazy, and likes to pull pranks on his brothers. Raphael is a bit more grumpy, sometimes explosive. However, he is more of a tough-talking, no-nonsense at times, and has a soft spot when he interacts with kids. Leonardo is still the no-nonsense leader he is. When he fails, he will go very hard on himself. He could sometimes go on drastic measures and can lose his temper even harder than Raphael would. Donatello is still very intelligent, but he is quieter than before. His inventions have better technology than ever before. The 2003 cartoons features adventures in New York City, the woodlands of rural New England, outer space, alternate realities, Japan, time travel, cyberspace, and back home once more. The cartoon lasted for 7 seasons until 2009. An animated movie titled Turtles Forever was released on that same year on the CW for Kids. That same year, Nickelodeon retained the rights for the property and created a CGI-rendered cartoon series. Nickelodeon partnered with Viacom with Paramount Pictures to create another live-action movie. 29 years ago, the first live-action movie was released. It had its humorous moments, but it had almost the same dark tone as the comics. The first movie was a success. It spawned 2 live-action sequels. Secret of the Ooze was okay, but the third one was not well received. Why? Because a lot of people thought that it was too cartoonish for a live-action movie. In 2007, a CGI movie was released and was part of the same continuity as that of the live-action movies. In 2009, Nickelodeon partnered with Viacom and Paramount Pictures to bring a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie to life. 5 years later, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was released and was produced by Michael Bay. 2 years later, its sequel, Out of the Shadows, was released. Neither were very well received. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had a live-action series titled The Next Mutation and had a female turtle called Venus de Milo. But the series was not very well received and was cancelled after only 1 season. The Ninja Turtles series had various publishers in comics, starting with Mirage, then to Image, then Archie, and IDW Publishing. And now, let us begin with the video games. Some of them were successful, others were not. One of the very first Ninja Turtles games was released by Konami's Ultra Games 30 years ago on the NES, along the one from the arcade. However, this game is based on the cartoons than on the comics. The story of the game is where the Ninja Turtles are on a mission to retrieve the Life Transformer gun from Shredder, a device that could restore their Sensei Splinter back to his human form. The Turtles' first objective is to rescue their reporter friend, April O'Neil, who is being held captive by Bebop and Rocksteady somewhere in the city. After rescuing April, the Turtles must swim underwater to disarm a series of bombs set to destroy a dam, rescue Splinter from the Mecha Turtle, destroy a giant Mouser, find a Technodrome, and eventually defeat the Shredder himself. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles develops an RPG-style navigations in which the Turtles can enter sewers, buildings, and so on, almost imitating the same concept of Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Enemies can attack the players while exploring the overhead view. They must be careful with the tanks, otherwise they will be squashed. Players can play as either Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello. Players can equip various weapons such as shurikens, triple shurikens, boomerangs, and a kiai, which is a scroll that expands into a crescent-shaped beam that inflicts devastating damage on enemies and characters. Players can also ride the Turtle Party wagon and fire missiles at the barricaded roads and bridges in the third mission. Donatello is the best for boss fights. Raphael and Michelangelo are great for ground enemies, while Leonardo is the best at taking aerial enemies down. Players recover a small health with a slice of pizza. With half a pie, they recover half the health, but a whole pizza pie can restore their health fully. The game is rendered with an overview perspective in the overworld of each mission. In sewers and buildings, the turtles, bosses, and enemies are rendered in 2D sprites. Now, I really like how the sewers look like in the first mission, and the rooftop battles are awesome, which you can see a view of the city. I always believed that the rooftop battles were something out of Double Dragon. They put so much work into the sewer areas, the cavernous areas, and the overview. Konami really knew how to make very good games at that time before going full pachinko. The enemies in the game are mostly foot ninjas, flame men, and various other creatures. However, the foot ninja in this game are from Dimension X instead of Earth like the ones from the comics and live-action movies from the 1990s, since this is part of the cartoons of 1987. In the arcade game, released on that same year, the player can choose one of the 4 turtles: Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. Up to 4 players can play. Donatello has slower attacks but a longer range. Michelangelo and Raphael have faster attacks but a shorter range. And Leonardo is a well-rounded turtle with average speed and range. The 8-way joystick controls the movements of the turtles. The jump button makes them jump, and the attack button makes them hit in front of them using their weapon. In addition to this, some combinations are possible. The turtles can throw foot soldiers overhead, and by pressing the jump and attack buttons, a special attack is performed. Raphael rolls along the ground and finishes with a kick, while the other turtles do a sweeping jump attack with their weapons. The turtles can also spring off the wall in certain areas. Enemies can be defeated more quickly by slamming them into walls or solid objects. Many objects such as traffic cones, parking meters, fire hydrants, and exploding oil drums can be hit or damaged with attacks in order to help defeat nearby enemies. In the attract mode, the game showed the first part of the cartoon opening along with a portion of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song. The NES version, known as TMNT 2, the arcade game, is the same, but with a few differences to that of the arcade. The last game for the NES was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, released in 1991. Like its predecessors, it's mainly based on the cartoon series. 2 players can play simultaneously in the game, with each player controlling the character that they chose. They can choose any of the 4 turtles. The Game Boy had 3 side-scrolling beat-em-up games. The first one, released in 1990, titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Fall of the Foot Clan. The player takes control of one of the turtles through a total of 5 stages, battling Krang and Shredder's minions along the way. Enemies include foot soldiers, Mousers, and roadkill Rodneys, among many others. If a turtle runs out of health, he is captured and the player must select another turtle to pick up where he left off. If all 4 turtles are captured, the game is over. One can regain lost health by collecting pizza or by winning the hidden mini-games scattered throughout each stage. There are a total of 5 stages, each with a unique end boss. The player can choose which stage to start the game on, but the game needs to be completed from stage 1 to see the full ending. The game got 2 sequels, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Back from the Sewers in 1991, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Radical Rescue in 1993. When the 16-bit era began, it was time for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to evolve to such a phase. The first game of such era was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Originally released in 1991 worldwide as an arcade game, and later in 1992 on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Turtles in Time was also remade for the Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network as Reshelled and released in 2009. This game was titled on the Super NES as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, and it is one of the best TMNT games ever created by Konami. However, when you play it, you must beat it in the harder difficulty in order to achieve a better ending. It will require practice, precision, and above all, patience. The Turtles are at home watching the Channel 6 news, where April O'Neil is reporting live from Liberty Island until suddenly Krang appears flying in a giant exosuit and steals the Statue of Liberty. Then Shredder hijacks the airwaves to taunt the Turtles. Now, the Turtles must combat throughout the streets and sewers of New York, then to assault Shredder's Technodrome, and then begin a battle through the past and future, and in the present to defeat Shredder and go home. Turtles in Time is a beat-em-up side-scrolling game in which is played with 4 players in the arcades, while on the Super NES version, only 2 can play. Players can choose to play as 1 out of 4 of their favorite Turtles, and to make things more fun, you can play in co-op, with family, and friends if you like. The Turtles fight by unleashing power attacks by hitting enemies several times in a row. Also, they can slam the foot soldiers into surrounding enemies and even throw them out the playing field into the screen, which is awesome. The Turtles can recover energy with pizza boxes, and when taking them they say, "Pizza time." A box of pizza which has a bomb on it gives the Turtles the ability to unleash a whirlwind-like attack, which lasts for about 10 seconds. Players can ride on pods in the stage, Neon Knight Riders, which looks great. Players fight against bosses from both the 1987 cartoon and also Tokka and Razor from the live-action film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Players go through a limit of 10 different levels starting in the streets and sewers of New York City. Then a first confrontation with Shredder. After Shredder is defeated for the first time, the next stages represents various eras of world history. After time traveling, they confront the Super Shredder at the Technodrome, and a better ending is achieved if played on a harder difficulty. The game has enhanced graphics unlike the 8-bit games. In this game, players can change the look of the Turtles from their cartoon look to their comic book looks. The Super NES version was tied with the 3 previous games from the NES, while the arcades had a distant approach. While the Super NES version misses some of the aspects of the arcades, the game features a Mode 7 graphics theme in the stage, Neon Knight Riders. 5 new bosses were added: Slash, the Rat King, Battle Tank Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady, and so on. Even Sega got into the action with a game titled The Hyperstone Heist, heavily based on Turtles in Time. The gameplay is the same as the former, but in this one, players have the ability to dash. Unfortunately, players can no longer throw their enemies. In 1994, Tournament Fighters was released. This is the first Ninja Turtles game to be released as a fighting game. It had 3 versions: the NES, the Super NES, and the Sega Genesis. All 3 have story modes, but each version is different. The NES version you can play as the Turtles as well as Hothead. In the Sega Genesis version, you can play as April O'Neil, Casey Jones, Ray Fillet, and Sisyphus. In the Super NES version, you play as characters from the Adventures and Archie comics such as Wingnut, Armagon, and War. From the cartoons, you play as Chrome Dome. An original female character in the game is called Asuka. However, the American version had censored some of her features such as her clothing and her pose. This could be because some parents might be offended or because she was too sexualized for younger audiences. In this day and age, people would just go, "Really?" But it is also because Nintendo of America is very strict in terms of adding family-friendly content. But still, Asuka in the Super NES version and April O'Neil in the Sega Genesis being playable were good additions for some female representation and empowerment in the game. The bosses in the Super NES game are the Rat King and Shredder's adoptive daughter, Karai. An MS-DOS game was released in 1991 titled Manhattan Missions. This game was more darker and mature unlike previous games. It was more closer to that of the Mirage comics and the movies. The goal of the game is to complete a number of missions consisting of levels divided into screens, culminating in the final battle with the Shredder. The gameplay is similar to the original Prince of Persia, as characters switch between free movement and melee fighting stances in a 2-dimensional platformer environment. In between missions, the Turtles can rest, regaining lost hit points, but the player only has a limited amount of time in which to find a Shredder. The game is designed to be played with a keyboard and utilizes a key to switch between walking and fighting modes. Each turtle has the ability to arm and withdraw his weapon. Each turtle wields a signature weapon and a number of shurikens as well. Holding the enter key makes the turtles attack, and the spacebar is used to block enemy attacks, on which arrow key is held. As said earlier in this episode, the 2003 cartoon by 4Kids Entertainment was closer to that of the Mirage comics, but it still had its cheesy humor to not make it so violent. The 2003 cartoon even spawned some video games as well. The very first game based on the 2003 cartoon was released on October 21st on the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, PC, and Game Boy Advance. The player can play as either Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael. Each turtle has its own unique set of levels to complete. There is a story mode for 1 or 2 players, and there's also a versus mode where 2 players can fight head to head. In the versus mode, players can fight as all 4 turtles: Splinter, Casey Jones, Hamato Yoshi, the Turtlebot, Hun, Orokusaki, and Shredder. A challenge mode is unlockable by defeating Orokusaki with any turtle in the story mode, which needs to be complete to unlock Hamato Yoshi and his dojo. The story of the game is loosely based on the Season 1 episodes Things Change, A Better Mousetrap, Attack of the Mousers, Meet Casey Jones, Nano, Darkness on the Edge of Town, The Way of Invisibility, Notes from the Underground, and Return to New York, as well as a level that is not derived from the animated series as well. The game received positive reviews for the graphics, the music, and the voice acting was spot on. But according to critics, the turtles always said the same line over and over again when taking down an enemy. The gameplay was also criticized for being a simple button masher, dumb AI enemies, poor stage designs, 2-player mode, and no blocking. The game received 2 sequels: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Battle Nexus in 2004, and Mutant Nightmare in 2005. Unfortunately, these 2 games were not very well received by critics and gamers alike. In 2005, Mutant Melee was released as a fighting game. However, unlike Tournament Fighters, it does not have a story mode, but it has an adventure mode in which player chooses a character to follow in a battle-to-battle style story with written synopsis between battles and tasks as they attempt to reach their ultimate goal. The mode presents offshoot routes that allow you to choose different challenges and battles as you proceed. During progression, the player gathers token currency, which can unlock extra content in the library menu area. In the game, there are 4 modes: Last Man Standing, Knockout, King of the Hill, and Keep Away. In Last Man Standing, the goal is to be the last living player. Knockout challenges the player to KO the most players in a set of time, or to reach a set amount of KO first. King of the Hill's goal is to get to a set of number of points before the other players. To gain points, players must stand in the light beam that moves to set places on the map. Finally, the goal of Keep Away is to carry a chest to gain points. While carrying the chest, players are unable to attack. The carrier must run away from the other players because being hit will cause the carrier to drop the chest. The game features 22 playable characters. 10 of them need to be unlocked through certain actions in the game. The 2007 CGI movie was released on March 23 of 2007. The movie received positive reviews, although short but sweet. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie also spawned a video game for the Game Boy Advance. Unlike past titles that were developed by Konami, this one was developed by Ubisoft. The game is a hack and slash type of game where you can play as Raphael, Leonardo, Donatello, and Michelangelo in different acts throughout the game. The stages are mostly from that of the movie, where you fight gang members, the Foot Clan led by Karai, the 13 monsters from a parallel universe, and also General Aguila. Another game with the same title was released on the Xbox 360, the Wii, PlayStation 2, GameCube, PC, Nintendo DS, and PSP, though this version is vastly different from any of the others released, being a 2.5-dimensional side-scrolling beat-em-up game involving no 3-dimensional gameplay, more in style of the original arcade installment. The game garnered positive reviews from critics and fans alike. A game for the Nintendo Wii was released in 2009 titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up. However, although the Turtles, April, Casey, and Splinter have the same designs for the CGI movie, it is in no way connected to it. Smash Up is a 4-player, 2.5-dimensional fighting game similar to the Super Smash Bros. Series. During battle, players attempt to KO opponents by depleting their life bar, knocking them off the stage or into traps. Each character has their own unique moveset, with many able to perform additional techniques such as clinging to and leaping from walls. Characters are color-coded on screen via an optional glow effect to help players keep track of their character. Like Super Smash Bros., the game features many customizable options for battles. The game stresses interaction with the environment, and stages in the game feature traps, changes to the stage itself, and interactive elements. Items will occasionally appear on the stage for players to collect, including life-restoring pizza and ninja skills that grant players special abilities, like fire breathing and electrical shields. In addition to standard Battle Royale multiplayer battles, Smash Up offers several other gameplay modes. Arcade features a brief story in which Splinter challenges the Turtles, April O'Neil, and Casey Jones to a tournament with unique endings for each of the 7 characters. Survival challenges players to defeat 100 opponents before they lose 3 lives. Swap Out allows players to choose 2 characters and switch between them at will in battle. Mission Mode requires players to complete certain objectives in preset scenarios, such as attacking targets or defeating an opponent within a time limit. The game also features tournament and practice modes, as well as additional minigames and online multiplayer features. Players can collect shells during battles or minigames and use them to unlock special features, including additional character costumes, concept art from various media of the Ninja Turtles, and trophies that other players can win in online tournaments. The game also garnered positive reviews. The 2012 Nickelodeon cartoon series was a success. It had many elements from the 1980s cartoon, the comics, and so on, but the cartoon also spawned 2 video games, although their success was not like previous games. The first game was a platform video game developed by Magic Pockets and published by Activision. It was released on October 2013 on a Nintendo 3DS, Nintendo Wii, and Xbox 360. Unfortunately, it was not very well received by fans and critics, although it has some following, to be honest. Its sequel, Danger of the Ooze, was at least more successful. It was released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 on October 28, 2014, while the Nintendo 3DS version was later released on November 11, 2014, in order to better adapt the graphics. Due to sound limitations, the music on the 3DS version is less synthesized compared to the console versions. The game also features gameplay elements and homages to the 1989 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NES game. The digital versions of the game, alongside other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games published by Activision, were pulled from all digital storefronts in January of 2017 when the rights expired, and they chose not to renew the license. The Nintendo 3DS version was later bundled on a single cartridge with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and was released as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Master Splinter's Training Pack on November 3rd, 2015 by Abstraction Games. Another game based on the 2012 cartoon is titled Portal Power, released for the Android in 2016 and released on Steam on Christmas Eve of 2017. In 2013, Out of the Shadows was released for the Xbox 360 and PC, and a year later on the PS3. Unfortunately, the game was not very well received. On May of 2016, Mutants in Manhattan was released and received mixed or average reviews. The game is an action hack-and-slash game created with cel-shaded art style in which players control the title characters, including Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael, from a third-person perspective. With the exception of infinite shurikens, each turtle has an individual style of ninjutsu. Each turtle also has 4 ultimate abilities, which are interchangeable and shared from a well-sized list. For example, Leonardo can slow down time, and Michelangelo can perform cheerleading, which reinstate the cooldowns of other turtles' abilities. Players can shift between the turtles at will in the single-player campaign. The turtles can perform successive attacks to create a combo. The 4 turtles also have the ability to parkour and use parachutes while traveling around the game's world. Players encounter numerous green orbs in the game. These orbs, known as battle points, can be spent to upgrade the turtles' abilities as well as buying items, such as grappling hooks and rocket launchers, from Master Splinter anytime during the game. April O'Neil provides assistance to players by giving hints and directions. The turtles can also scan their surroundings and tag enemies. There were also various other games on mobile as well. The iconic heroes would later appear as DLC characters in the video game Injustice 2. This is the 4th time that the Ninja Turtles have guest starred in a DC Comics product. The first 3 being separate crossover comic book miniseries with Batman. Now, in this month, we are seeing the Turtles teaming up with another iconic team, the Power Rangers, in comic books. Who knows if in the future the Power Rangers and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles might have a crossover in video games. But this is not the very first time that the Power Rangers and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles team up. An episode from Power Rangers in Space titled Shell Shocked shows the Turtles and the Rangers teaming up against Astronema. And finally, to wrap this up, it was a long season to do. Lots of things came my way to have time to work on this web series, but next year I hope that Season 4 can succeed as well. I really enjoyed doing this episode because I loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since I was 3 years old. They're cool, funny, and I love their ninja skills. I remember watching all 3 live-action movies from the 90s, the cartoons from 1987, 2003, and 2012 as well, and I loved them. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird brought these pop culture icons to life, and they still shine up unto this day. Turtlemania lives on forever. This has been the Season 3 finale of Video Games in the World. This is John. Have a good one. Peace.